In the aftermath of the Derek Chauvin trial, many cities are taking a closer look at policing and racial injustice, but several states are setting their sights instead on protest. In Florida on Monday, Republican Governor Ron DeSantis signed what he dubbed an anti-riot bill. Among other things, it prevents jailed protesters from bailing out until they've appeared before a judge. It ups the penalties for toppling monuments, and it makes it easier for drivers to escape liability if they hit a protester with their car. Florida's Republican House Speaker Chris Sprowls was quoted in the New York Times saying, quote, "We weren't going to allow Florida to become Seattle. We were not going to allow Florida to become Portland." Joining me now, one of the reporters on that New York Times story, politics reporter Reid Epstein. I'm also joined by Charles Coleman. Charles is a civil rights attorney. He's also a former prosecutor. Gentlemen, a big thanks to both of you. Reid, let me start with you. It's not just Florida here. Your piece also looks at Oklahoma and Iowa, a few other states that are considering similar legislation. Walk us through your reporting. Give us a fuller understanding of the landscape, if you will.
Well, Craig, this all stems from last summer and the protests following the George Floyd killing by the Minneapolis Police Department that gripped the country. And what we saw is a lot of Republican lawmakers looked at those protests and saw them as both organizing tools for Democratic politicians, but also as not necessarily as peaceful protests, as 96% of them were, but as riots that damage cities. And they sort of tell a false tale about what happened during those protests all of last year. And their attempt to rectify that has been pieces of this legislation, things like immunity for drivers that strike protesters, or far harsher penalties for people convicted of rioting offenses, and frankly, lowering the bar of what constitutes a riot under various state laws.
Charles, civil rights attorney, has already filed a federal lawsuit against that Florida law I just mentioned. How strong of a case do you think they have?
Well, Craig, I think they have a very strong case. And quite frankly, I expect us to see additional challenges. And this, quite frankly, may end up in front of the Supreme Court at the end of the day. These are pieces of legislation which begin to trample on one of the most fundamental rights that we enjoy here in America, and that is the right to free speech, the right to protest, the right to assemble lawfully and say whatever it is that's on your mind. And I think that this is a clever marketing strategy that is being employed by some of the legislators because if you note, this didn't occur after January 6th on the White House. On the Capitol. This didn't occur after Charlottesville. It's only in the wake of this election, some of the protests that we've seen across the country over the past year, that this has now become a priority. And so I will leave it to you and other viewers to ask themselves, what is the common thread here that would cause this to be a priority now that wasn't during the times that I just mentioned?
Yeah, peaceably assembling to redress grievances. That's guaranteed in number one in the Constitution. Reid, this Florida law seems to take specific issue with local governments that decrease their police budget or defund the police, so to speak. Can you talk more about that part of it?
Well, that's another piece of this that is in a lot of these Republican state legislative bills across the country. Iowa's bill does this too, though there's been no Iowa local jurisdiction that sought to defund their police departments or sheriff's departments. The Iowa legislation that's headed to the governor's desk there would defund state aid to local governments if they cut their police departments beyond a certain amount. These are essentially taking Republican talking points that we've seen over the last year and turning them into law, regardless of how much relationship they have to the truth.
Well, but Charles, to that point, if presumably, these lawmakers know that some of these laws probably are not going to stand up in court. What's the goal? I mean, is it just pandering, or is it more to it than that?
I do think that pandering has a lot to do with it, and I think that if we want to put it plainly, there is a strong undercurrent of white nationalism that is a part of it. If you look at what has triggered these pieces of legislation being introduced, they are challenges to the status quo of what America has been for so long. They are challenges to systemic inequity. They are challenges to racism. They are challenges to a number of things that have kept people of different backgrounds, ethnic groups, and religions marginalized for a while. And so for a lot of people, the idea is that whether it's free speech, whether it's voting, whether it's any other sort of part of what fundamentally makes us American, those systems should not be accessed by all people. Those systems are not supposed to be available to all people. And that is at the core of ideology for white nationalists. So at the end of the day, yes, it is pandering. And quite frankly, a lot of it is pandering directly to a certain group of folks, that being white nationalism in America.
Charles Coleman, Reid Epstein, a big thanks to both of you. Reid, it's a fascinating piece. Have a great weekend, gentlemen. Thank you again.
Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube channel. You should know that you can follow today's top stories and breaking news and catch up on your favorite MSNBC shows all in one place. Download the NBC News app today.